Have you ever wondered how some people escape poverty while others live their whole lives trapped inside it? Well, what if I told you it doesn't have anything to do with where you were born or who your parents are? Because Andrew Carnegie defied those odds to rise from poverty-stricken Scotland to become the richest man of his time. And by the end of this video, you will discover the single most powerful habit that helped him make over $400 million back, when that was enough to buy you an entire country. But first, let's go to the beginning. This is the story of Andrew Carnegie, the billionaire who built his empire on steel. Carnegie was born in Dunfermline, Scotland in 1835. His father was a handloom weaver, which means he earned his living by weaving cloth by hand instead of machine. So, they were dirt poor. And because of this, Carnegie had to start working at age 13. In fact, he was considered a child prodigy because he could read and write before most kids his age. So when his family immigrated to the United States, Carnegie continued working to support them. And this time, he worked in textile mills, earning only $1.20 a week. But here's where the story gets interesting. You see, Carnegie had a plan. He knew that he wasn't destined to work in a factory forever, so he saved enough money to buy himself a watch. Then used that watch to get a job at the railroad as a bobbin boy. In fact, his new boss said, "I want you to look after my watch while you're at work." And this was a huge opportunity because now Carnegie got to learn the business firsthand. Not to mention, he also learned how to operate the telegraph, which landed him a higher-paying job. Then, after 7 years, he became an official telegraph operator, and by age 24, he was making more than $1,500 per year. But Carnegie wasn't done yet. He kept investing his money to create multiple streams of income until he became a millionaire. Now, you may think that he became rich because he was smart, but that's only part of the story, because Carnegie simply recognized that his life depended on his ability to learn new skills and adapt to new circumstances. For example, when he started working at the railroad, Carnegie witnessed firsthand how important oil was for transportation, so he bought some shares of the first oil company. Then he made money when the stock price went up. But Carnegie knew that good investments take time, so he held on to them for several years, and by the time he sold them, he had multiplied his initial investment by 5 times. That's why Carnegie didn't get rich by luck. He simply lived by 2 rules: never waste a chance to learn, and do and sell your investments too early. And there's more. When Carnegie moved to Pittsburgh, he noticed that factories had a big problem. They needed a lot of iron for construction, but they couldn't get it delivered on time. So he partnered up with a British engineer named Thomas Scott to deliver iron for factories faster. However, there was a challenge. They couldn't keep up with demand. That's when Carnegie read about a new invention called the Bessemer process, which allowed steel to be produced quickly and cheaply. So Carnegie and Scott borrowed $10,000 and opened the Keystone Bridge Works. Their idea was to use the Bessemer process to produce steel for bridges. And this was a brilliant move because steel was much stronger and cheaper to produce, so it completely replaced iron overnight. Now, you may be wondering, how much money did Carnegie make from this? Well, in today's money, it was enough to put him on the Forbes top 10 list. But again, he wasn't finished yet. You see, Carnegie realized that producing steel alone wouldn't make him rich. He had to use the steel to build something bigger. So he began building America's infrastructure. For example, he constructed the Brooklyn Bridge, which connects Manhattan and Brooklyn in New York City. At the time, it was the longest suspension bridge in the world. He also built railroads and skyscrapers. And for each project he completed, he would make a fortune. In fact, by 1899, Carnegie's net worth adjusted for inflation was over $310 billion. That's why, if we zoom out, we can see that Carnegie didn't just make steel, he built the backbone of modern America, and that's the secret to his success. Most people get rich selling things that solve other people's problems. For example, Henry Ford created cars so that people could travel faster. Bill Gates created software so that people could connect with each other through the internet. And Andrew Carnegie created steel so that America could grow and develop. But with great power comes great responsibility. So how did Carnegie use his wealth? Well, let me tell you. After Carnegie reached the top, he began searching for ways to give back. So he decided to sell his company to J.P. Morgan for $48 million, which was equal to $1.4 billion in today's money. And with this, Carnegie became the richest man of his time. However, he didn't rest on his laurels. Instead, he went to work helping others. For instance, he founded the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, which awarded over $200,000 annually to promote world peace. He also donated around $46 million, equivalent to over $1.4 billion today, to establish libraries across the US. He believed that education was crucial for fighting poverty. And Carnegie knew firsthand how important it was because he had to teach himself how to read and write as a kid. And speaking of writing, he also published an essay called The Gospel of Wealth. In it, he explained that it was the responsibility of the rich to give back to society. Otherwise, quote, the people will feel that the inequality has become too great to be borne, end quote. And Carnegie followed his own advice by donating over 90% of his wealth during his lifetime. He once said, "Wealth without friends is poverty." And he meant it. That's why Carnegie's legacy isn't only about steel, it's also about giving back. Sure, he was ambitious and persistent, but he didn't just stop at making money. He wanted to change the world for the better. He also helped organize the American Red Cross after a devastating fire in 1881, and these efforts made him one of the most beloved billionaires of all time. In fact, people still remember him because Carnegie understood that money is like water. If you hoard it, it will stagnate. But if you share it, it flows and multiplies. In the end, he showed us that the purpose of wealth isn't to sit on a pile of gold, but to use it as a tool to make a positive impact on the world. And that's all for this episode. We hope you enjoyed the story of Andrew Carnegie, the billionaire who made a fortune by solving America's biggest problems and then used his wealth to make the world a better place. If you want to know more about the incredible lives of other famous billionaires, stay tuned for more updates. Thank you for watching, and remember, if you are willing to hustle hard and smart, you can achieve anything.